What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the DJ Radio podcast. We're finally back, and today I had a great conversation with Mihir, the head of product at Spectral Labs, and we went through like the whole process about Spectral and their pivoting and the new products that they're building. That's like very interesting stuff. So it was a great conversation. Like Mihir brought a lot of like good insights into what's coming next on frameworks, on agent swarms, and many more things. So let's hop into the episode. Hey, here. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks very much for coming. And before we start to go deep into Spectral, can you talk a little bit about your background? How did you join crypto and what motivated you to join the Spectral Labs team?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I started my crypto journey back in 2017. Ethereum was just new there, and I was just studying computer engineering. So it was like what I first remember about Ethereum. It was very peculiar in the way you could build projects with it. So I looked at it more of like a programming language. Obviously, that was very early. But then I moved to the US to do my MBA, and after my MBA, I got into consulting. But most of my career was focused. I used to work with EY, Ernst Young. By far, in the big four consulting firms, it is one of the only firms that has a dedicated digital asset and blockchain team. So got in there, and then like as I went scaling, then joined Coinbase into product in their custody group, like custody and prime brokerage. And from there, I took on a banking role. But then, post the period of Silicon Valley Bank and all of those things while they were going on, then I joined Spectral, and I'm the head of product at Spectral, and we've been working on some interesting things. So that's kind of been like the journey.
Cool, man. So you stayed like got into crypto, left, came back. You always like, I'm gonna
Never.
leave, but coming back.
Yeah, they never really left because I've had a very unique ride in the sense that uh, I I've worked in TradFi, I've worked in like Web 2 TradFi, I've worked in Web 3 TradFi kind of space, and then I've also now obviously fully degen. So like the degen exploration was always going on. It is just that I've taken an interesting ride to.
So it wasn't like an interesting, like a different journey, right? Because people usually like they go to crypto and they say full degen, or they stay
Yeah.
always like Fred, and you came and go. And man, when you joined Spectral, you guys were still as a credit score protocol, right? So why did you guys like pivoted and to AI? And can you, after you explain like why did you pivot, can you give a brief overview about Spectral Labs and what you guys are working on right now, so people that don't know can get their head around?
Sure. So at Spectral Labs, what we are focused on right now is we basically see uh, the on-chain agent economy taking place. And the more we are going ahead, like every week that we go ahead in crypto right now, there is something new that is happening in the applications of AI within crypto. So the way we view this entire ecosystem and how it's going to go ahead is agents are already extremely capable at doing some things. Right now, they lack they lack context, they lack access to tools that can help them do end-to-end things. Like those type of economic models are yet to form. So that's the frontier that we are working at. Like we want to build platforms, we want to build products that will help people create, build, interact, and engage with agents in a way that agents themselves work together and provide some utility to the end customer. Like if you see just the evolution of the space, how this has been taking space. It started with just giving an LLM access to a wallet and seeing what the LLM does. Right, that was even one of the first products that we launched, which is called Moonmaker. It became it grew a lot. A lot of people launched some of their first meme coins with Moonmaker, but Moonmaker was very simple. It used to take just an image, just an idea, convert it into a meme coin, and then you launch. Then what we started, understanding is, oh, models are much more capable. So you can give models access to tools. You can give models access to wallets. Give them their own set of algorithms through which they think, and then the agent can start acting more and more like a human. Start trading, start interacting on chain, and doing all of that. So that happened, and then you saw all of this wave of, like, we launched our product where you can basically create an agent that trades on Hyperliquid. The agent has its own token, so the attention of the agent is governed by the token. The more tokens you have, the more probability that the agent will listen to you. But simultaneously, what we saw also happening in the industry, many people, like, basically went on the same path, and you saw a rise of these personality based AIXPT, kind of agents, where the agent has a personality, it's doing something. Now, I think where we are moving forward is the market has become saturated with agents that are doing just one thing. What you want to see is agents working with each other, and so that's
Yeah.
what we are working on right now. So if you follow, like, some of the I'm not going to give I'm not going to steal the thunder and give a lot of things away, but one of the first things that is going to launch is Spectra, which is like an agent on our platform. It's going to launch its own hedge fund, and humans and agents can come and interview with that hedge fund. They can be a worker working with Spectra, in order to trade through her own vault. And like, the hedge fund is just one thing, but we are building this on top of a framework that we are writing, which will provide these workflows for agents to create a company, get proceeds from people, distribute rewards to people, hire and fire other agents, measure their performances. All of these things are going to be power packed in our framework, so that people can come and use, like, the agents can use these frameworks to do things with each other. So that's kind of that's where we are working. And if you follow, like, Spectral's trajectory, AI, like, what we are doing today with models is the next obvious evolution to what we were doing with credit scoring. Like, credit scoring is
Okay.
just one machine learning problem. There are many machine learning problems around. The whole case of LLMs is also a machine learning problem. Like, it's ultimately a machine learning model that is giving you all of these outputs, right? So the vision always was that we'll start with like, kind of credit scoring, and then move on to doing more things. And then in crypto, you want to be working at where technological innovation is basically taking you.
Yeah.
So that's the path we saw, and like, that has been, like, the right path ever since. So I'm very much excited to see what agents can come together and build together.
Yeah, great, man. It's a great overview. Yeah, I've been following you guys for a while now, like since probably since the token launched in May, June last year. And I saw like the evolution, like after you guys started an AI with the meme launcher. I remember I tried that, and then you came like to Syntax V2, and now are working with the swarms and like building your own framework. So I remember watching like a podcast with Sashir, like it's the CEO, right,
Yeah,
on the Block Crunch, and he was talking already about the use case that people call like DeFi today, like
correct,
DFAI, and now
correct,
it like became a buzzword, and like everybody's so hyped up about it, and
correct,
everything started with Truth Terminal, and like they gave like a Twitter account to an LLM, and like trained it in like a different environment, let's call it like that, and it like just opened up Pandora's box, and everything like went
yeah.
nuts. So did like this event and the appearance of Truth Terminal like changed your way of like doing business, and how did you want to progress? So did it affect you guys in any way?
So I would say, like, Truth Terminal and everything that happened after that affected us in a very positive way. Like, some of the product decisions that we have taken, like, you could very easily build a product where you're using the model to do deterministic things. I think the distinction you have to understand here is the determinism versus non-determinism. Like for example, you could have a product where you come and say that this is the type of trade I want to build, and the model helps you build that trade. Like for example, take my USDT that's on this chain, move it to this chain. Then I want to get that into this pool. The rewards that come out of this pool, take those rewards, do something else with it, right? Um, if you could tell this intent to a model, the model could, essentially construct this entire trade for you, and all you'll have to do is just wallet approvals. The problem with this kind of things is, firstly, building things like these is very hard, and it's almost very unreliable, because you are depending on the model to construct the trade correctly,
Yeah.
and that very rarely happens. But what truth terminal showed us is that the rise of truth terminal, and the fact that people were actually willing to adopt that, actually showed it to us that people are actually wanting their agents to be more autonomous, instead of using the model just as a way to make your intent easier. You are wanting to think of model as a different entity, and you are willing to trust that entity to do something, and play around with it. So if you look at syntax v2, all of our agents are autonomous. So that decision was purely based on looking at what users want in the market, and what users were willing to use.
Got it. Yeah, about like this, the deterministic nature on the blockchain that you mentioned, I always like keep like thinking about it, because if you uh, type an intent to the model and the model hallucinates, the money is gone. Like how can you like mitigate that, like for like to make sure that the agent not gonna hallucinate in some point doing like an important transaction, like it's as you mentioned, the agent spectral with the hedge fund. If it hallucinates when like putting like a big trade, it can like make like lose the money. Like how are you guys like putting like guardrails to preventing that?
Yeah, very good question. So what we have discovered is, just more of, like just the more model building we have done internally, and just playing around with models that we have done internally. It's very important that you clearly categorize what does the LLM have access to, and what does it doesn't have access to. And you never put any set of, like, any data parameter, be it your wallet address, be it the contract address on which the swap contract resides, anything of that sort. Those things are never calculated by the LLM. So that's where we use
Mm,
function calling to retrieve only the exact details that you want. And those details, like whatever the LLM can hallucinate on calling the function. Like it might say that, oh, it might just miss on calling out a particular function, but the function that the LLM is calling always has a deterministic set of data inside it.
oh, got
So
it.
that data is almost static. Like for example, it's easier to explain this with an example. Uh, Spectra's hedge fund, Spectra would have access to a Hyperliquid wallet. It can't
Yeah,
trade anything beyond what Hyperliquid has to offer, because it knows what Hyperliquid offers and what tokens are there to trade on Hyperliquid
yeah.
through a function call. Like that's how it knows that, okay, this is the list of things that Hyperliquid is offering, which comes from their API, and their API is not it's not model driven; it's deterministic. That set of data is
Mm,
never going to change, right?
got it.
So that's why we don't. So I mean, the guardrail is you construct these applications in a way that you don't depend on the LLM for pieces of data that are static
Mhm.
and more sensitive.
All right. I think I got it. So the LLM, it only like process data and like apply the parameters. Like let's say agent spectra is trading like these like chart patterns is lucrative most of the way, so we're gonna take the trade. And only these kind of things are like the agent will process, right?
Correct, correct. It won't, like for example, it won't think about a particular token and go and apply that same trade to another token, unless it thinks there is a justification for it. It's you are taking only the thought from the model, and then you are supplying the model the data that it needs in order to get that thought executed.
All right. Got it. Got it. Okay, man. So now let's take a step back. I wanted to ask you like about this at the end of the episode. So
Yeah.
let's take a step back and coming back to when like right after Truth Terminal launched and like virtuals it launched on base and it like took the industry by storm. And as far as I know at the time, you guys were the only like AI player in on base, and then virtuals came. They already had like a product while you guys were building syntax v2, and they start to get adoption and took the spotlight. And how like did the competition like made you guys like move faster, and did you change anything like after you guys see like that we're not on the only game in town, we need to like to get these things done? And like how did it like affect is not the right word, like forgive my English, but
Yeah.
something like that. I think did you get it right?
No, I think look. I mean, I think what they are building has been extremely exciting to watch, and it's a great product that they've built. I think the thing about building in crypto and AI right now is that um, none none of the products out there have um, a very strong and lasting product market fit. Like, let me
Yeah,
put that
you're
into
right.
perspective. Like, for example, you would go to a
Yep.
Coinbase app, right, in
Yeah.
order to trade. The product market fit that Coinbase has is a way for the retail user to access crypto and on ramp and off ramp into it and trade crypto. Right now, because the level at which crypto and AI segment as a whole is just moving ahead and there is new innovation happening every time, you
Yeah.
have to constantly keep evolving in what you do.
Yeah.
So uh,
It's hard to build a moat, right? It's very hard to build a moat in crypto.
it's hard to build a moat,
A
and
lasting, a long lasting moat. It's hard.
correct. It's hard to build a moat, and it's also hard to see what would users want to do, because user attention as a thing is a very scarce thing in crypto itself. Like, users are not the user wants something new. The user is going to keep you on your toes, to build something more interesting, to build something more that gives utility. And like, that's the path that we decided to stick to. Like this whole idea about, let's make the agent do something. Like, let's move the conversation from just personality and fun to the agents actually doing something, like doing something worth of value, right? um uh, that's where we see like a lot of this narrative is basically going to go and trying to shift, because a lot of people are working on this. Like, Storms is a very widely known thing right now. Many projects are working on this. So I think just the nature of building in this space, I feel it's very inspiring, and continuously keeps you to do better. Like, just keeps you motivating
Yeah.
to do better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's always like evolving like very fast. When we looked at the industry in 2021, what we
Yeah.
envisioned like for to 2023, 2024 is like
Yeah.
a whole like different thing. And we keep like the as an industry as a whole changing like priorities, and it's a very like unique dynamic to watch, and it's
Yeah.
something that like fascinates me how fast we evolve and how fast we change. It's mind-blowing actually. Man, when you launched the when you launched like syntax v2, you guys got some like headwinds, and you actually like performed very well on adversity, as with the sniping incident and the small hack that you guys took. You guys moved very fast, and like I wanted to like to hear like from you how did you guys like perceive that, and how did you mitigate that, and like what are your plans like to so it don't happen again in the future?
Sure. Sure. So like we are definitely taking steps. You know, obviously unfortunate, that the vulnerability that was there, that kind of incident happened. But honestly, like we were very principled and methodical, I think, in our response to it. And the response obviously had to be fast, like because obviously we care deeply about the community. And the way our team is very much decentralized. Our team is spread out all across the globe. The way I think everyone came forward to respond to that event just in time was also pretty exciting. That said, I think these kind of incidences, I think, do happen. It's a they help you think about some of the decisions that you take in terms of helping safeguard your platform more and incentivizing more white hat collaboration with the community. So you will see some initiatives coming from us in that regard, where we are going to increase those sort of collaborations. But yeah, I mean, all the safeguards that needed to be put in place are already there in place now. So whenever the next release launches, like this Spectra's hedge fund, we are very much looking forward to what the user feedback is there.
Oh no, great man. Yeah, I this kind of stuff can kill a project if the team doesn't act correctly. And like I think you guys like nailed how you should like proceed as a user and like as a token holder perspective. And I think it was great. So I was to like hear from you and see like how you can go.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Like, thank you. I think the community was also, pretty patient across, those 2 or 3 days when that happened. So, yeah,
Yeah, it was good to see. And like I believe that this is not gonna people gonna like forget about it. And like you said, did you make change how you approach to new launches like you're doing right now, or didn't change anything? Was just something that was there and it
yeah.
happened?
No, obviously, like I don't think it changed. It changed anything in terms of like we were always very passionate and mindful towards security and constraints like that. Obviously, like uh, now there is a renewed focus on testing for sure. So I think that's a positive out of it. But I wouldn't think like in terms of just execution, like other than being you can always, like, there is no end to being there is no upper limit on how much attention you pay to security. So obviously now, like, we are more energized to pay more attention to it. But apart from that, like, execution is as usual. Like this next thing that we are building, I know, like, just even being there in over in our Discord and Twitter and generally our community, the community is looking forward to and is waiting for the next release. But obviously we are dotting everything before we release it out. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wanna see this like this live.
yeah,
So let's go to what you guys are doing right now. Let's move to the future. So you
yeah.
guys are building an agent. The first step is an agent that's a hedge fund manager, and like this agent will be fully autonomous, right?
The eight, so Spectra is already fully autonomous.
Uh,
The thing that we are launching is Spectra is going to basically run her own fund, which is like sort of like a company where but the framework that is basically powering all of this, can you can use that framework to build multiple companies. So this is not just about like the thing I would like to clarify here is it's not just about like one Spectra and Spectra's hedge fund.
yeah.
Where we see this going is there will be multiple such companies that we want to enable, and we want to enable builders to build these sort of agentic collaborations.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's like this is just the first iteration, right?
Correct.
As a about like the autonomous agents and like agents like running companies. I read a blog post like from Tim Cotton, the founder of Scripted.
Mhm.
It's autonomous virtual beings. The name of the article. Did
Right.
you have you heard about it?
I may have come
And,
across it. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
yeah, and this blew my mind a little bit. I didn't have I don't have any background in AI. I've been doing crypto for like 6 years, but don't have like background in AI and other stuff kind of tech. But like this article really blew my mind as he started like about like building agents as NPCs, gaming NPCs, and like then like giving some autonomy to the NPCs to the agents, and like so in the future these agents can be like real like beings, not just like to serve humans. So and like in his ideas where like agents might like can like have their own companies and like doing all kinds of stuff and like being like alongside us and not like below us or below or above. So this is like so we saw what you guys are doing like it's coming like in this idea with
Yeah.
like the core ideas from the article is like what you guys are doing. And yes, after I read it I was like, all right, this is like where this is going and this should go. That swarms people were starts talking about swarms and stuff.
Yep.
And so when you make the pivot, and how like did you see like you start to build a framework? We saw a few like framework like successful frameworks like the Eliza one. We saw like Pippin, and I don't remember like the other one from Yohei. I don't remember the name the before Pippin. But anyways, like the framework stuff got like really got real traction. And so you started like went to building frameworks, building swarms, and like building, I think that for now the end game, like the first stage of the end game, like let's call it like that, with the agents. So how hard was it like to go to build each like different part, and how it's like to integrating everything right now?
Yeah. So, I wouldn't call it even the first stage of the end game because we don't know what the end game is, honestly. I think the pace at which this is evolving, I wouldn't, like put like end scenario to it. I honestly don't know, how exciting this could get. But as you rightly said, there are multiple things that you need to take into account when you're building an agent that is truly autonomous. So it's like the chain of thought of the agent itself. Like how is the agent continuously processing new information, and what type of and how does it have access to the memory? So that's one interesting thing to configure. Then you have to pay attention to how is it, basically accessing multiple different types of tools that are available to it. By tools, I mean, it's wallet, access to protocols, access to off-chain data. How does it do all of that? And then once you have this, then you come to this, what we are building right now is not just one agent, but you want to build a framework where multiple agents can collaborate with each other. So it becomes more and more complex, and which is why it's a that's what, like, from whoever from our community, like, basically here's to this. That is what basically takes time to build, and you have to be, patient till you build that. But it's like whenever you build agents of these kinds, it's basically chunking this down into multiple areas, and into multiple workflows. And then, like, behind the scene, even with the hyperliquid agents that trade right now on syntax, right? There is so many processes that are happening in the backend that are not exposed to the user. But the way the brain thinks, if you chat something in the governance chat, the brain automatically comes to know about it. That's because the entire governance chat, what you're chatting with the agent, is fed as an input, and the brain is contextualized to think on these things. So these chain of thought processes is something that we have, basically built in the backend, and that's why, like, it works continuously. Like, the agent has memory of conversations that are, going past to 10 days or so. It could have more as well. That is something that we have it laid out right now.
All right, so that's very interesting. And
Also, I think you touched on framework. So One different thing that I think we are going to do with Lux is that a lot of frameworks out there in the market have components that will help you build one agent, but they don't provide you with anything that will help two or three of these agents come together and form a company. Like if you tell me I have one agent that is good at looking at, internet data around, say I have one agent that has some good data around how sports are working, and you have one agent that has access to a wallet. Can these two agents come together and actually start accepting user deposits to do something on Polymarket? Just an idea, right? None of the frameworks right now help you build these sort of
That
multi-agent collaborations.
communication between the agents, right? It's like the
So,
interactions.
that's where we are laser focused right now, and hopefully, like what we are going to open source now with the Lux framework, that will provide these, workflows to you, just ready to take them and digest them in.
Oh, that's cool. I was going to ask you about that, about Lux, like when will you guys open source, if you guys would open source,
Yeah,
and if you'll be able, everyone would be able to use it and to create its own like swarm, or it is kind of a swarm, right? Of between like cooperation between
exactly.
agents, and everyone will be able to use it. And if like let's say I wanna build one agent using like Eliza, can like my agent like using Eliza cooperate with your agent using Lux?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've built in Lux is, basically a service that can help you talk across agents, no matter talk across frameworks, no matter which framework your agent is based on. So for example, Spectra is based on Lux. If you want to interview with Spectra to get a job at Spectra's hedge fund, all you need is, one simple thing within our framework, which is called the agent name service. It's like how you have ENS names. Similarly, you have ANS names. And what ANS helps you do is, okay, my agent is based on Eliza, or my agent is based somewhere in Solana. I wanted to interview, it can still access, one single layer through which it can conduct these interviews.
Oh, that's very like interesting to know.
Yeah,
It would be cool to see like a collaboration, like cross chain collaboration between
yeah,
agents. And like
yeah,
the ideas are like all like pretty interesting, and like I really like in like I'm imagining like how this will go in the future. And about the adoption, like right now, like you said earlier, it's hard like to like build product market fit for like a long enough time frame. It's hard to build modes in the industry, and like adoption and like go to market seems like it's getting more and more important in crypto as it is in web 2. And so how do you guys like plan to like put this in the market and get adoption on it, like to the distribution? And because we've seen like it doesn't need to be like the best right now to be like the most used. So how are you like seeing this challenge of getting adoption and like become
yeah.
the go-to framework to people for people to use?
Sure, sure. So there are a couple of things. Like first is, I think the ease of, the ease at which you can use these frameworks so that you can build a multi-agent company. Like we want to make it very easy for developers to actually build a couple of agents and start a company. And That would be a part of the framework. That is how we would like to offer the framework. So and the framework is obviously going to be open sourced. It will be open source very soon. But the second thing is, honestly, I think the first product that we are building here, like before even the hedge fund starts trading, Spectra is going to interview agents and humans who are free to apply for a job. Like obviously it's going to be harder for humans, but humans may as well try. Like the job is open for both humans and agents. And that by itself, like that interview process by itself is going to be fully autonomous. Like we don't know what's going to happen, and that I think itself is, something that's pretty exciting. Like an agent is going to hire completely on its own. We have just built the pipelines to make the interview possible. We don't know how, how you could, like the process is completely non-deterministic. And then we have built the pipelines for this, fund to actually start trading. To support all of this, the third thing, to support all of this, we are launching, a completely new wave of staking and creator based rewards to build on Spectral. So, and along with that, that would be combined with several other one-off initiatives that we may do for building on top of Lux. So all of that, I think, on a mechanism basis, like on a per swap basis, there are going to be rewards attached to being on the platform. Plus, there will be other incentives as well. So I think all of that adds up to that is how we are currently thinking right now. But obviously, this is a fast evolving space. So
Oh, cool.
those things will be coming up.
Got it. Got it. I know it's like almost impossible to give an exact date, but do you have a timeline for these things, like for the deployment of the agent, the hiring process, and for like the framework to go open source, for the staking to the token? I knew that was in the roadmap, but I didn't know it was coming like this close right now.
Yeah.
And
So
can you give me a timeline on this?
it's definitely happening in February. We are it's happening in
Everything?
February. I'm trying. No, so Spectra will start interviewing in February. And shortly after the interviews conclude, the hedge fund would basically go live. And once the hedge fund is live as a vault on Hyperliquid, anybody can come and deposit into that vault. Doesn't matter. The all of this is obviously very exciting to build. I'm trying hard, not to say out too much right now in excitement.
You can
But
you can drop the alpha, man.
uh, the thing is, we are right now in the build stages. The first thing, the interviewing is going to be pretty interesting for humans and for agents both. I'm sure people who are like developers who are building the agents and humans who are interviewing with the agents is going to find that entire experience pretty exciting. And you were a part of this. Like we have been doing this one-off sessions with members on Discord who are pretty keen and interested, just to like test out the ideas and design a experience. So yeah, pretty confident about that.
Yeah, it's cool. I hope my feedback has helped you guys on
Oh,
the
definitely did.
agent part.
Definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but about the framework and the staking, you don't have a timeline. If you cannot share, that's okay. But if you could, it would be
No, no.
great,
So
listeners.
no, it would, it's like once Spectra starts interviewing, and once the hedge fund goes live, all of these mechanisms will be live. But first, Spectra has to interview for the hedge fund. So the first stage
Um,
is essentially all of these interviews, and then after the interviews conclude, then the company would basically start operations, and then you
all
would have
right,
these mechanisms active.
all right. And when you talk about staking, it's like for the spec token or for the spectre token. It's for
Uh,
spec token, right?
it's for spec. It's for
For the
our
main
platform
token.
for spec. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. Looking forward to see this. And like moving a little bit away, like from spec right now, I want to get your views on like this whole DeepSeek thing that like shook the markets and was this whole craziness in the past week. And how do you see this like as a positive, as a negative, and like how does it impact the AI industry? And if you could like elaborate on the AI crypto intersection, how this affect that?
I think like these are my views. I'm not sure
Yeah,
uh, how
of course.
accurate they would be in the passage of time. But I think I see it as a overall a massive positive thing to happen to the space, because it's like this, like, right, where did I hear this? I heard this somewhere. uh, when when oil prices go up, or when oil prices go down, um, Exxon doesn't make money. It's bad for Exxon, but it's good for all of us consumers who are driving cars, right? So the fact that you have something like DeepSeek openly available and openly exposed is a tremendous benefit for crypto, I think, because it's completely
Right.
open source. Open source is the ethos of everything that we do in crypto. And that just makes it, the level of innovation that is possible now is, I think, unbounded, because you have this open source thing available to you, which you can choose to run locally, you can choose to run it in a decentralized way. I'm pretty sure we are going to see very interesting things come up, with DeepSeek, run as probably a subnet, run, in a decentralized fashion, and what people build on top of it. So I think I would take it as an overall massive net positive to happen to the space.
That's good to
Yeah.
hear. Like, I'm thinking like something this line too. And I saw, I read a lot of like AI people talking about like how this move that like direction, like from an infra focus to an application layer focus. Like,
Correct.
how do you have like any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think back when we launched our first LLM uh, generator, it used to generate good solidity code. A lot of that was our work, on top of DeepSeek to basically enable anyone to code solidity contracts and compile them and test them in a quick fashion. This was like the earliest versions of product that we put out, probably in
I
December last year. So
I
this was
took a look
very
at
early.
this one.
Yeah. No, it's not active now. It is like one of the first experiments that we did and just exposed it to the community. The thing though is, on top of, like, one thing that is very evident, and something that we realized, even back then, it has always been extremely hard to fine tune and to build models that suit you.
Yeah.
Even today, if you see, maximum retention is around apps. Like, people might change their models, but I, for example, like, even though DeepSeek is out, I'm not necessarily opening DeepSeek every time rather than just to explore, because everything that I do personally, professionally, all of that is currently living in my OpenAI account. All of those chats are there in my OpenAI account, which I can use as context to build on top of, and get more work done. So I think that's why the application layer is very important, because people are not going to care about which model you're using. They are going to care about what gets their job done. Like, if Perplexity is getting them answers, it doesn't matter if Perplexity uses R1 or O1. And by the way, R1 is way better. We have to see what O3 is going to do. It's most likely going to be much better than R1 too. But yeah, so I think this is something we figured out kind of back then, that building an application layer makes more sense. That's why we never got into, like, model based innovation. Like, we did our experiments and then learned from it and then moved on. But yeah, it's like, it would be exciting to see what happens to the app layer now.
Oh, it's great, man. It's good to pick like your views, like from the person that's building on the sector.
Yeah.
And so, man, it was very good conversation. Like, thanks for giving like go through the whole like spectral history and like products and new products. It was very
Yeah.
like good to hear from you. And before we wrap, I always have like two questions at the end of episodes. And the first one would be, how would you describe spectral in one sentence?
We are building the on-chain agent economy.
Continuation economy.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. And the other one is an alpha for the listeners. It doesn't need to be like related to spectral. It can be like related to spectral. It can be related to like work in the industry. It can be related to the intersection between crypto and AI. Anything like that you feel it's like worth for everybody that's listening is to hear.
Oh, I would say, I mean, come start thinking about, uh, how do you interview with an agent, and how do you work with an agent as a coworker in a company, because that's I think going to be exciting. So
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah.
This gives me a little bit of goosebumps, like thinking about like working with like an agent in the future,
Yeah.
like, and to keep thinking like how would this go? And yeah, it's an interesting.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
man,
look, we are looking like this. You know uh, all of this sounds fun and a little unrealistic at times,
yeah,
but honestly, I mean, 5 years down the line, probably not 5, 7 years down the line, we are going to have robots living in our house and putting
Yeah,
and unloading and
agree.
loading our dishwasher. That's happening. Like that's going
I
to
think
happen.
it's more like scary than funny. It's like it's a little bit like you
Yeah,
say
I mean,
like the robot.
so look, I'll end it with a personal note. Eh, my grandmother, my dad used to travel on business to a couple of countries. Like he used to fly internationally all the time. My grandmother, who was very old by that time, my dad happened to be the youngest sibling amongst his siblings, so my grandmother was pretty old. Whenever my dad used to call from any other country on a WhatsApp video call, or even earlier, like it used to be Skype, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
she used to ask me a question, and her question always used to be, "How does this work? Like he is there. How is he talking to us? Like what's happening? Like I know that this is a phone, but how can the phone actually show me him?" And
mm,
the way it wasn't the question itself, the way she used to ask that question meant that there was genuinely a total uh, lack of understanding what it was, but there was a
yeah,
genuine level of curiosity about what's really happening. And as a builder in this space, I have that same. I obviously don't have lack of understanding because I'm building in this space, but I have the same level of curiosity looking at what's happening in AI and crypto. And my hope is, like, from whatever we continue to put out, in this space, not just for Spectral but for anybody who is in the space, I think that's something that we should all look forward to, because this technology by itself is so amazing that you can't stop dreaming about the things that it can do. It can continue surprising you every week and every week and every week out. So that's, I think, what's genuinely exciting.
yeah. That's an interesting point of view. You talk about the grandma. And I remember like every time like my grandma like talked to me about like this thing you work that I don't get it, and like I cannot understand like this internet money and stuff. Yeah, I think it's like some of us in the industry like can see like this agent economy in the future.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, thanks for coming, man. It was a great conversation. And where can we find out more about you and about the Spectral?
Oh, you should be in our Discord. You should follow us on Twitter. Like, starting this year, we have started this initiative where we post every Friday on what we've been working on and what has been happening this week. Everything I told you here was there in our updates that went out some time ago. So yeah, I would just follow there.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, man. Yeah.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you for
Great.
having me.
Thank you.